In days gone by, the Nipigon Marina was the site of the Hudson's Bay Company, and scarcely remembered alongside of the river were the few wigwams which dotted the shoreline. In latter years, many small homes were located there. Among the families who lived in the Mudflats were the Dampiers, the Blanchettes, the McDonalds, the Gagnons, the Chaboyers, the Ploufs, the Haggans, and Joe Delarond. For those who recalled living in the Mudflats in the early days, it is hardly recognizable today, and one could scarcely imagine where the homes even were. As for the river, it had been dredged so many times to deepen and divert it, it has literally been changed beyond recognition. As we travel further down the river, a man named Colonel Little ran the small mill which started up in 1921 and aptly named the Little Mill. It was at the end of Mill Road, across the CN tracks where the walking trail is. The Little Mill depended on the power generated from the newly constructed Cameron Falls Generating Station. 15,000 cords of spruce a year were taken into this little mill and turned out baled pulp.
Yeah, the Little Mill was down way past the plywood mill, and you had to cross the track. Yeah, and they used to haul all the bark with one horse and one little buggy with two wheels, and it used to dump. We used to go down there as kids and ride with the guy that hauled the bark.
In the olden days, the timber industry was booming. Railway workers were settling on homesteads in the area and becoming woodcutters. Bushmen would cut on Lake Nipigon and drive the logs down the Nipigon River and the Black Sturgeon River out to mills for processing. It took nerves of steel to drive the logs, as one could easily be pinned and crushed in the water, between logs or between large rocks on the river. In some cases, dynamite had to be used to free up log jams. It was also quite common to see log booms used to enclose the logs by the mill, as tugboats pulled the booms to the large conveyors. The river drive ceased in 1973. The Little Mill ran intermittently and was demolished in the mid-1960s. Further down the river, at what is called Sawmill Point, two other mills also operated, one by Mr. Don Clark. Both sawmills made ties and slab wood for boxcar doors. Another mill opened in 1957 and began producing plywood under the name Northern Plywood Limited on Park Road. The mill changed hands several times over the years, and finally in January 2007, it became Multiply Forest Products, which manufactured flooring underlay. The mill employed about 130 people and was the #1 employer in town. Sadly, on February 7, 2007, the town was dealt a devastating blow, as a fire started by a lathe and quickly burned out of control. Employees escaped without injury, but the town was soon drained of its reservoir, as for the next 2 days, many explosions were heard, even across the bay, and one could see the fire from Red Rock. By February 9th, the 50-year-old mill was no more. An empty field is all there is left today, used by local log trucks for parking.